What's going on, you guys? Welcome back for our final session 3 of our Marriage Online Seminar. First of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your guys' weeks and your evenings to spend a little bit of time investing in your guys' marriage. And it's hard. There's never free time to invest in your marriage. And tonight we're going to be talking about a really exciting topic, the stages of marriage, because there are many stages within a marriage, and then how through those stages do you stay on the same team? And that can be really, really difficult. So far we've covered the communication aspect. We've given you guys some questions to be asking inside the context of your marriage. And then last week, Laurie covered how do we fight fair? How do we genuinely honor our spouse? And did you honor your spouse this last week? If you did, maybe drop it in the comment section with how you honored your spouse this last week. So the rest of us maybe who forgot about it can be encouraged by that. But we're really excited to dive into tonight's message. We realize that 3 weeks and spending 45 minutes, some of you need more. Some of you need more help, and some marriages are hard and difficult. And so we want to offer you guys a couple options. One, the first option is counseling. Counseling is such an incredible option, and actually, as I shared with you in the first session, it saved my marriage. It helped give me really good self-awareness, and counselors, we view them as just really good coaches who tell us the truth. So if you need a counselor or you guys would like to go to counseling, we've got a great list of resources here at the church that we've used in the past. And don't think that just because things are on fire, you have to go to counseling. It's like, that's absolutely the time to go. But if things are just rocky, that's also a good time to go to counseling. You don't have to wait till things are at a level 10. And the other option that we want to give to you guys is myself, Laurie, and Mark are trained in a program called Prepare and Enrich. So we've walked through lots and lots of couples at our church. And basically what it is an assessment that you and your spouse take. And then we walk through a 3-session, basically 3 sessions that are 60 to 90 minutes long, where we walk through your assessment, and then we work on some of the things that we can see are struggling areas in the context of your marriage. So if that's something that's interesting to you and you would like to sign up for something like that, go ahead and shoot us a quick email. It'll be right down here on the bottom of the screen, hello@faithlegacychurch.com. And over the next 4 to 6 weeks, we'll put some type of schedule together with you, and we'll connect, and it'll be you and your spouse meeting with one of the 3 of us as pastors over a 3-week period. We'd love to get you guys signed up, and there is a small fee to that. There's a $35 fee. So, and if that's something you need a scholarship for, we'd be happy to take care of that for you. So let's dive in to tonight's session where Jeff and Laurie are going to share on same team and the stages of marriage. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I'm so grateful for, again, each and every couple represented here tonight. God, I pray that they would continue to put in the work that it takes to have a good marriage, that it takes to be selfless with one another in the context of marriage. God, I pray for healing for those of us who've been hurt in marriage. I pray for reconciliation to happen inside the context of marriage. God, tonight, may our ears and our eyes and our hearts be open to what you want to reveal to us. And all God's people said, amen. Enjoy tonight's session, you guys.
Hey everybody, welcome in.
Week number 3.
Week number 3. You made it to week number 3.
And look who got invited. Look who got invited to the show.
Yes, Jeff and I are teaching together tonight, not because we're experts, you guys. Honestly, stop it. We're 36 years in. We're still working this out.
Yeah.
We're still working it out. If you feel like your marriage is difficult sometimes, it's not because you're doing it wrong. I mean, we all have things to learn, right? We all have ways we can grow. We all have blind spots. We have things we can improve in, but it's because life is hard.
And marriage is hard.
So life makes marriage hard.
Yeah.
We have to adjust to each other all of the time. And so you're not doing it wrong. There's hope. And we're going to keep encouraging you to keep that honor alive in your marriage, to keep asking good questions. And tonight we're going to talk about being unified through different seasons of marriage. And so Jeff's just going to lead us a little bit in the talk about the seasons and what that might look like for you, and some seasons we experience. And then we're going to talk about how to stay unified through all of that.
Right. So we're going to talk about 5 different seasons of marriage, and there's a lot of different ways you can break these out, but we're going to focus on 5. And the first one, and what we'd like you to do, we'll write these down, and we'll bring them up on the screen too so you can see them, because you're going to have a chance to discuss these a little bit in a little while together. But the first phase is the honeymoon phase. We all talk about the honeymoon phase of marriage, and that is the season, we'll define it as where your needs and your spouse's needs are both being met in a great way. You're all about them, they're all about you. There's just a perfect unison in that early days or years, hopefully, of marriage. And the goal is to live in this stage for all your life. But the reality is, we go through these other phases, that things come into the marriage that can make that kind of tough to live out. But you can have a marriage that is a honeymoon phase marriage.
It resurges, right?
Yeah, it resurges, you bet. And so that's that phase. But just remember, it's where you and your spouse are on the same page and you're meeting each other's needs. That is the unison of marriage. So the second one is the grind. We call it the grind phase. And this is where the world starts to get involved with you. You know, you each are living life, and it's a good thing. The world's coming in, and those things include the school and work and kids. Again, these are all good things. You need them, and your focus starts being sometimes on the world and the things and these things we mentioned here, and you can get drawn into opposite directions during the grind phase. So the key is, during the grind phase, which happens for most of your life, is that how do you keep operating with each other in this phase of life? And the big warning for the grind phase is this, my friends. It's called a slow fade in marriage. This is where you slowly start to look at the world or the day-to-day things that are good things in life.
Just life.
Yeah, that start to leave your partner out of the equation. And you start to distance yourself. So that's the grind phase. The next one we have here is called the self-centered phase, okay? And this can happen at any time in a marriage. And this is anything in your relationship with your spouse where you start to leave them out. That you are not thinking about them, or like, this needs to be my time, and you start to have this me philosophy. That can happen with your career or sports, with anything. And what was scary about this phase is you can lose interest in your spouse during this phase. Now, I feel that Laurie and I had a self-centered phase of life, and again, it was just part of life, and it was part of that time when I was in that the grind phase of school, early years of marriage. I was at school a lot. Architecture, undergraduate and graduate school is really time-consuming. I was gone a lot, and I was grinding at that, and Laurie was home with Brooke. And it's easy during that phase to kind of get self-centered. I'm busy, I need some time, and you kind of start, again, I wasn't intentional. I never said, I'm going to leave Laurie out of this thing, but I started just getting self-centered, and she was very patient with me during that time, and we worked through that, a very tough time of life, but I started to become self-centered, and I had to work at recentering myself back into our relationship, because we could have found ourselves where I could have just been so consumed that we lost all intimacy as a couple during that time.
Also, I think there are some seasons. I mean, there's some times where that the phase is a little bit unavoidable. If you've got a brand new job, you got a brand new baby, you got a brand new anything. If you want to, train for a marathon, if there's things that are going to be like, hey, I really want to do this thing, or hey, we really have to do this thing for a season. We're not going to be able to spend as much time together. I'm really going to have to put my nose to the grindstone. It's going to be a season, though, and I think that's part of it, is making it a season and not a lifestyle, and checking in during that time.
Yeah, and the warning for this phase is, don't lose interest in these things with each other. Right. Don't leave the other one behind. Right. And that's the part that we have to always be careful of. The next phase of life we call the transition phase. And there's two key pieces to this, but there can be other points in your life that cause a transition phase of marriage. Empty nest phase, okay, that's the empty nest syndrome, is when you're all of a sudden you look at each other and go, okay, do I still love you? Who are you? And Laurie and I went through that when Paige, we took her to school, like it was a brand new chapter, like everything we focus on, we've done our job and now it was us, you know? And the other one is retirement phase. That time in life when you retire from your job and you've had all this years as a couple working to this, and all of a sudden like, okay, here we are. What are we going to do at this phase? Like I said, there's other things that can come along. There can be illnesses or different things that cause a transition phase where you have a drastic shift in your marriage. And you just have to be careful, or you have to prepare for that. So the warning for this phase happens before the phase, okay? Right now, we need to be preparing and having a marriage that when you go through any of these phases, that you still like each other and you want to go through these transitions together. You don't want to lose interest or just like not even know that person anymore. You have to be extra careful of that. So that you have to plan accordingly for that transitioning back to the honeymoon phase when it was just you and when it started, right? The last one, and Laurie didn't like the name of this phase.
I hate the name of this phase.
It's a reality. It's the final chapter phase, okay? It is sad, but it's real.
Okay.
And we want to get there together.
Right.
Your goal is to get to that final chapter together, how many ever years that could be. And that is that phase when you start to take care of each other, or one is taking care of the other, or people, could be your own children, are now taking care of you.
Yeah.
And that is a phase where you want to go into, because we've seen some great marriages where that is literally a honeymoon phase for these. It's a hard time. Their bodies are broken down.
Yeah.
They've been through life. They know they're on that last chapter. They're looking towards heaven, all those things. But those are some of our favorite things. And we know those couples they're in their honeymoon phase again. And that's where we all want to stay or get to when that final chapter comes along.
Right. And for those couples, and you may know some of those couples who you see kind of rocking together on the porch or holding hands in the store or whatever, and you think like, yeah, I want to get there. What that requires is a lot of unity, right? Throughout, and a lot of patience, a lot of forgiveness, but a lot of unity. Jeff and I were just finished. What's it called?
Last Dance.
Oh, Last Dance.
Yeah.
It's that Netflix documentary about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls and their heyday and all their championships and everything. And it was so interesting to think about it in terms of their teamwork. We noticed what it takes to win championships year after year after year after year is a pretty cohesive team. And they had a common vision. They had a level of dedication and commitment to like their goal. They trusted their teammates. That trust had to be built, and sometimes it had to be rebuilt, right? There was a willingness in the team members to put the team's good ahead of their own personal good, right? To sacrifice for the team rather than, get their own spotlight all the time. And the best teams, especially that Bulls team for those years, the thing about them was they were just so unified. You could see it, and they were diverse.
They were so different.
They were so different. You had everyone from Steve Kerr to like Dennis Rodman, like just such diverse personalities and all of that. But they had that common goal and that common trust and that common vision of playing together and trusting each other and leaning on each other. And that's what we want to see in marriage. Unity is a biblical idea in marriage. If you look in the garden, like when God speaks of Adam and Eve, he speaks of two becoming one, that you're going to leave your father and mother and cleave to your wife, and the two will become one flesh. And that means you'll have a shared vision, you'll have shared purpose, you'll have shared authority, you'll have shared vulnerability, right? One of the characteristics in the garden was they were naked and unashamed. That's total trust, right? Okay, sorry. That's still the goal, that kind of two becoming one. But it does take a lot to do that.
Yeah.
It takes an awful lot. It takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of work, and a lot of intentionality. The biblical idea of the covenant of marriage is that it's a high calling. It's a high and holy union, and God blesses it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's easy. So you have two people who are of opposite gender, who have different life experiences, who have different personalities, who
Right.
see the world in different ways, who have their own ways of doing pretty much everything. And you're putting them together, and they're supposed to merge somehow
Yeah.
into this one thing. And that can engender a lot of potential for conflict.
Yep.
From the littlest, tiniest things to big things. Like little things like, what's the right way to put the toilet paper on? How do you push the toothpaste tube? You know, to the big things of like, how are we going to discipline our children? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like all of, and everything in between. There's just, we're coming at it from two different viewpoints. And it's actually sanctifying work. I think that's why God put opposite people and personalities together, because it really does humble us, and it makes us really work together. But because we see things from different perspectives, it starts to feel like we're competing against the other person all the time. We're competing against them for the right way to do something. We're competing against them for where we want to go spend Christmas. We're competing, and we turn it from us against the world, like it's us that's the team, to it's me against you.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way it's supposed to be. When we get in these situations, lots of times, Jeff and I are both strong people, we have found. We both have pretty strong opinions that come into conflict occasionally. And there's lots of times when I find us, kind of locked horns, and he'll go, same team. And then I'm like, oh, same team. Sometimes I do it begrudgingly, but that idea of same team, I encourage you, if you don't have a phrase, just use that one. Same team means we're not going to fight about this. Obviously, we're going to figure it out. The more important thing is the relationship. I love you, you love me, we're on this journey together. We're going to work this out because we're on the same team, right? Just that phrase kind of resets and reorients both of us. And it reminds us to regain a little perspective, to pull back from the situation, to actually consider the larger view instead of getting mired down in this competing ideas thing. In a couple of minutes, we're going to give you some time to discuss how you can stay on the same team. But there's two real keys to same team: honesty and priority. Those are the keys. So honesty, we have to have an honest evaluation. Like, each person needs to take a self-inventory and sort of an inventory of the relationship. What's the first thing you would suggest?
I would suggest the first thing you do is determine what phase of marriage you're in. Kind of go through that process. We've given you these. Where are you guys at? Where are you at? Because we know who some of you are in this conference, and some who will be maybe watching this later on. That we know we have someone who's been married a couple just maybe 3 weeks now, and we have some couples who've been married over 50 years. So where they're at in their relationship, but hopefully they're all in the honeymoon phase. But determine where you're at, and are you in a healthy position? Are you in a good spot? Is there any warning signals that you guys need to discuss? And I think that's where the honesty is hard. Sometimes it's easy to evaluate kind of like where I'm at, but sometimes you have to be transparent. I think this is where we're at, and you're afraid to say that. So we want to encourage you, and probably in the next 10 minutes you're not going to get there, but spend some time really evaluating where you're at in your marriage.
And maybe where you'd like to be.
Oh yeah, and where are some ways to get there.
Yeah. The second thing is to not hide your internal struggles. Do you know what I mean by that? A lot of us live so much in our own heads. There's always stuff you're dealing with as a person on the inside that you're not maybe sharing with your spouse as soon as you should. There might be a real worry you have, a fear you have, a doubt you have, a concern you have. And what happens is if you live in your head too long, you build a narrative around that idea or fear or whatever, and that becomes your reality, but you haven't shared that with your spouse, so they're locked out, right, of what you're going through, which makes you feel isolated and them feel blindsided when it finally comes out maybe. But I'll give you an example of this. Very early on in our marriage, it was right after we moved to Sacramento. I was home with 2 little ones. Jeff was at his first job. We had 1 car. He normally needed it for work. So I was at home with the kids all the time. I didn't have any friends here yet. Not anybody I could really talk to. And no cell phones, no Marco Polo, no fun things to distract me, right?
Old school.
Old school. The real sufferers will understand this. So it was what I wanted to do, right? It was my dream as a mom to be able to take that time and stay home with my kids, but it was so hard. And it was so same, every day, same, just struggle, get through the day, that I just started thinking about like, well, what about me? You know, I got pregnant, I wasn't able to finish college. Like, what about what I want to do? And maybe there's something that he doesn't even know. He doesn't even ask me. He doesn't care. And I somehow, over the course of a couple weeks, had talked myself into this idea that I was sort of a victim in our relationship. I was home, poor me, I was misunderstood. Jeff didn't even care about, what was going on in my life as long as things were going on in his life. And I got really discouraged and really emotional about it, but it felt kind of silly to bring up. Like there never was a right time, and it was always, get dinner, get the kids to bed, like we're exhausted, we go to sleep. And so it never felt like the right time to bring it up. And one day he happened to call when I was just in the middle of, my daily self-talk. And he was just calling to check in and like, what's wrong? And we ended up talking about it. I just said, like, I just feel like you don't care. I don't feel like you care about me and what I want to do. And maybe I want to go to school. Maybe I want to, and he was so surprised. But you know what he did? He said, I'm going to come home right now. I'm going to come home right now, and we'll talk this through. I didn't know any of this. I'm so sorry you feel that way. Let me go check with my boss and see if I could come home. And this brings us to the second point, priority. Like, that's all I really needed to know. I mean, once he said that, like my fear all of that self-talk just went away, because I realized that's not real. That's not true. That's inside my head. And by him making me the priority, I mean, I knew he couldn't leave work. It was a new job, and we had pretty strict rules about attendance and everything. Yeah. But the idea that he would, and that he was putting me first, like that healed that struggle for me. So that's just one little episode in one tiny chapter of our life. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Those internal struggles that you have inside, whether it's about your spouse or how they perceive you, or something that you feel like you're going through, if you choose to go through it alone, you're decreasing unity, you're increasing distance.
That self-centered phase could start to come out of that.
Self-centered. because it centers on self, not because it's arrogant, not because
Right.
of any of that,
Yeah.
but because it's centered on self and not on the team, right? Not on the relationship. So that is, don't hide your internal struggles and prioritize your spouse and your marriage.
Yeah.
All right.
So 2 questions as you go into break
yeah,
here.
we're going to go into
okay?
discussion time now.
What phase of marriage do you feel that you're in? How are you doing? Discuss how you feel if you're in a good spot. Do you still have glimpses of that honeymoon phase? Are you still have eyes for each other?
You
Talk
said
about that.
2 questions, and that's like 500.
Well, I mean, that's the first question. What phase of marriage are you in? Sorry. And then is there a personal struggle you've been keeping inside? What Laurie was just talking about. Is there something like right now, like, I need to share this with you? So take some time together for a few minutes and we'll come back and close. Well, hopefully we gave you enough time, and probably not, but you have a lifetime together to work through these different questions. We want to close you with a thought as we end our three weeks together, and it's a spiritual connotation of where talking about unity. Remember when God, and Laurie was talking about that in the garden, that there was perfect unity in the garden. The unity was with man and woman, with God, and with each other. And that is the goal. That's the goal of our marriage and our life today, right. Being unified with the Lord. We get in our own way so often. And we just want to take a second and show you real quick a little bit of a model of a marriage from Romans chapter 8, verse 5. I have done a lot of personal study on Romans chapter 8 in the context of marriage. I know what Romans 8, I want to challenge you to do that sometime. Think about your marriage and the relationship of our relationship with God and our relationship with each other. So that's a bigger part, but let me read one verse to you. Romans 8:5 says this: "Those who live according to the flesh have their mind set on what the flesh desires. But those who live according to the Spirit have their mind set on the Spirit desires." God desires so badly to be in relationship with us, and God desires for us to be in relationship with each other. What gets in the way is our flesh. Our flesh gets in the way. And so you and I have to really work hard to live in the Spirit. The reason that Christian marriages have the same divorce rate as non-Christian marriages is this is a really hard way to live our lives, to live in the Spirit. And I want to challenge you individually as a couple, we want to challenge you to learn to live in the Spirit. Now, in a few, we've done different series before, and one of them is out of the book of Galatians, and out of that is the fruits of the Spirit, which are what? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That, if we can live in those ways in the Spirit, we will have an amazing marriage. So I want to challenge you to think about, we want to challenge you, are you struggling with any of those areas? Love, peace, patience. Okay, we want to challenge you to think about that in your own personal devotions and as a couple. And lastly, when it comes to the model of how God's modeled this for us, that He loves us and He wants us to love us back, remember this: the greatest example we ever have is from Jesus, who came and gave His life for us, and which applied grace. We didn't deserve it, but we got it. And I don't know why in marriage, the second point is this, is do you offer your spouse grace? Do we offer grace to each other? We loved to go before the Lord and say, Lord, I've messed up so bad. Give me grace, like I need your grace. But we really struggle with the person who's the most important person in our life to offer grace to them. And so sometimes that's a challenge in marriage. And we want to ask you to think about, do you offer grace to your spouse in a healthy way? So that is it for us. Laurie's going to pray. And hopefully this has been encouraging these 3 weeks for you guys. We love you. We will pray for you. We want to be here along this journey with you. We want you to be along our journey together. And thank you so much.
Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for this time to connect with you, to connect with each other, God, and to invest in being intentional with our spouse. God, tonight as we talk about unity, I pray for each couple watching. I ask, Lord, that you would renew their commitment to each other. I ask for those who are struggling, Lord, that you would give them hope, for you are the God of hope. And God, for those who need a miracle, I pray that you would give them a miracle. For those who are just getting on this journey, I pray they won't get discouraged. I pray, Father, for an anointing on each couple, that they would recognize your love for them, your power that's available to them, and that this is a journey that we all are on, Father, and we can make it what you intended it to be if we follow your word and your way. We love you, and we just ask that we would be open to getting help along the way if that's what's needed, getting encouragement, and staying with a heart that's fixed on you and on each other. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.